I play a woman named Delia Banks. My husband died about 3 years ago, and I have a 13-year-old son who is having some trouble dealing with the loss of his dad. And he's acting out in very, strange and aggressive ways. And one way he did that was he stole something from the antique store across the way. I'm a real estate agent, and he stole something from her store, and I was just incredibly grateful that she didn't call the police, but she called me instead. So I met her. Her name was Melinda Gordon, and she seemed to be very lovely, and I loved her store. And, I brought her a Starbucks. We became friends, and she had my son work for her on the weekends to pay her back for, stealing something from her store. And one day he didn't show up because he had something to do, and I worked for him instead. And I realized that real estate never was what I wanted to do. I really was an artist and wanted to be involved with all the beautiful trinkets, and I started to work for her part-time. And over the first season that you will see, we became very good friends, but she never confided in me her gift, her great secret, because in her mind, everybody that she tells about her gift gets hurt, either dies or is compromised in some way. And as another gift to me, she chose not to tell me about it so that I wouldn't have to deal with, the traumatizing realization that she can see people from the land beyond. If it were me, it would be a curse. I wouldn't want to have anything to do with any of that, scary stuff. But she feels an obligation and a duty to see to it that she clears up some very, unfortunate things that are happening in the world. People who can't find their way to the other side, and it's her duty and responsibility because of this gift slash curse she has. But I wouldn't wish it on anyone. It seems to me, a big burden to be able to have that kind of power and, ability. Well, the thing about starting a character on a television show is that you don't have all the information. It's not like a play. When I did theater for years and years, you have all the information. You know how they begin, you know what happens in the middle, and you know what happens in the end, and that's what you got. But with a character that's just starting, you're just on the ride with the writers, and it starts to evolve and develop depending on where the storyline needs you to go and what things jump out at you as the television show starts airing. So in the beginning, I didn't think much of her. I thought, how hard can it be to play a mother of a boy, which I am in real life, and someone who loves real estate and art, which I do. And I always wanted to work with Jennifer Love Hewitt. There's nobody in this town that has a better reputation than she does, and everyone loves her. And I now can join the ranks of all those people and tell you that she is really quite a special woman, and she makes it incredibly wonderful to work with her. Yes, I mean, I've been around for a long time. I'm much prettier and younger in person than I really am. But I did theater for a good solid decade in New York before I came to Los Angeles. And I got to work with some of the most incredible playwrights and authors, Tony Kushner and Michael Mayer and all kinds of incredible people. And then I was lucky enough to get The Practice, which I believe airs in the UK now, but for a long time it didn't. And I was on that show for 8 years, which I'm incredibly proud of. And just for you sophisticated people in the UK, I just did Romeo and Juliet and Shakespeare in the Park, and it was one of the most magical experiences of my whole life. So. And then I was lucky, I was flying home from New York thinking, I can't believe I have to come home. I had such a great time, theater in Under the Stars in New York City, Shakespeare. It was so fantastic. And then I'm on the plane home feeling a little sad, thinking, what do I have to be sad about? I'm going home to a great job, a great home, a great kid, a great life. So it's all good. I'm very pleased with my career, and the thing I was most afraid of was that I'd get pigeonholed. Early on, everyone kept saying, you remind me of a young Kathy Bates. And I thought, well, that's really odd since she's 2 feet shorter and 15 years older. Maybe even more. I don't know. But they kept saying, I reminded me, and I thought, that's going to be my fate, isn't it? I'm going to be playing those parts the rest of my life. And lucky enough, that didn't happen. I would say one of my prouder moments is when NBC called me up and asked me if I'd play Snow White in The 10th Kingdom, which was filmed in England. And I thought, that's right. We need to give a different role model of Snow White to our young girls. And that was quite a thrilling experience for me to finally have made mainstream politics by saying Snow White is beauty from the inside. And so you asked me if I was proud of something, and I'm certainly proud of that. All actors have a different idea of what the dream is. When I was in graduate school and studying Chekhov and Ibsen, doing theater in the regions and being in a repertory company was my idea of the dream. And television was always kind of frowned upon by the classically trained actors. Like, oh, you're selling out to television. And we used to say, we do television so we can afford to do theater, which is true because I did theater this summer, and it's a good thing that I made money elsewhere because I couldn't have afforded it otherwise. But then you come and do television and you start to realize how much of a family it is. You do a play, it's over in 3-4 months, and everyone gets scattered to the four winds, and you try to keep up, but we've got new jobs. And the same with movies. And the thing about doing movies is you always feel it's all new all the time. The crew is new. Where you're showing up and parking is new. You always feel like you're a little late and behind and don't know what's going on. The great thing about television for someone like me, who's usually very planned and organized, is that I park in the same spot every day. I know everybody's name. I know who I need for what I need them for. I know who to trust and who not to trust. I know who can keep my confidence and who can't. And it's a way of life, It feels more like a job than an adventure, that's for sure. But I'm a single mom. My kid's in first grade. I get to be home with him every night for dinner and, to his soccer games. So it's a much more stable living environment than any of the other mediums of acting. So for that reason alone, it is my job of choice is being on a television series. Even though I love to shake it up now and then and run off to New Orleans and Prague and Canada and do a movie, but not for long. I don't care for the hotel living. You know, there was a reason why I joined the show, and it was because, I've been very steadfast in many of my beliefs my entire life. My father is a mathematician, and in my house, things needed a reason. There needed to be evidence. There needed to be proof. And if that didn't exist, then it didn't exist in life. So I grew up looking for proof for things. So when the paranormal became into my consciousness, I'm like, give me some proof. I need to have an experience, and then I'll believe, Here's the deal. I've never experienced a ghost or a spirit of any kind. It's very possible that they were around me and tried to contact me, and I'm so close-minded, I made an excuse for it and tried to figure out why that happened and tried to put reason into it. And I know that is very possible because I have so many friends who I think are so much smarter than I am, so much wiser, so much more insightful, who have had incredibly compelling stories about the paranormal and life beyond and speaking to people who've already passed away. And I believe them. I believe it to be true. There's so many, right? Like, I'd really like to know inner thoughts. I'd really just like to hear what people are saying when you leave the room. I mean, I'm a big fan of gossip, and I love to give it and I love to hear it. But not the vicious kind, just the white lie kind of gossip, So I think I would enjoy that. Or maybe not. Maybe it would give me pause about humanity. But if I could develop a superpower, I'd want the one that could, make people healthy who are ill, make people happy who are sad, make peace where there is war, That's the kind of superpower I'd want to have. I'd want to make the world good.